Hey, what is happening, cash flow creators? Today, I think that you're going to get a lot of value out of what I'm going to be sharing with you. There's a battle going on today, okay, between us deciding whether we're going to live in a economy or operate an economy that is either an extracting economy or a circulating wealth economy. And it's really today an individual choice as to what you want to see in the future. And the reason why it's so important in this battle that's going on, it's a change in the generations. And each generation has their thing. Like my mother was born during the World War II generation, coming out of the agrarian age where you basically lived off the land and you had farms. Like my mother was younger, they used to work their cranberry bogs and stuff like that. And they would sell their fruits, vegetables, and all that stuff on the side of the road to make money. You really didn't have jobs. And then we came into the industrial age where suddenly companies like IBM and GE came about and people started going to college. And that whole idea was to go to college, get your degree so you can get a high paying job, invest in 401k, save money, and buy a house, right? That was the baby boom generation. And now we're entering into really the information age or digital age now, where it's not about that anymore. So we've got these two worlds. One's dying off, I believe, was the industrial age, and we're coming into the digital age. And as you can see, we have a president right now. Where does he come from? He comes from the industrial age. And you can prove that by just thinking about the things he's doing. He's talking about bringing manufacturing back to the United States, and he's trying to do it through the tariffs because we were exporting all our manufacturing so that we can live a high standard here in the US because no one in America is going to be able to afford to work for lower wages. And matter of fact, today it was announced that the United States is going to be bailing out Argentina because Argentina has always had a problem with their economy, apparently, as far as stabilizing it. So we have the United States that's going to be coming in, and they're going to be basically saving Argentina's economy. Well, that comes with strings attached if you understand the US dollar, because the US dollar is toxic. And the thing is, our currency is stronger than Argentina's. So anytime that trade is done in the US dollar, it extracts wealth from the other economies where their economy isn't as strong. It suppresses wages and it doesn't keep up with the cost of living. You got this going on in the United States. It just doesn't happen as rapidly as it does in other countries. We're able to um, survive it enough so far, but as you can see, wages are not even keeping up with the cost of living in this country. And our country is designed, you have to keep um, using debt because there's not enough production we have in this country, to produce real dollars. So you have to borrow money today in order to get ahead to it by investing in assets, and this is stuff that we've talked about in the past. So you look at Argentina, the trade-off is yes, it's going to stabilize their economy having the US dollar, but it's also going to spread more poverty. This is why we have the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, and China. They're trying to de-dollarize. They're trying to get away from the dollar because they see that it's suppressing their economy from building wealth. So I asked myself, and I'm apolitical. So, I asked myself in the beginning when Trump was talking about we're going to bring manufacturing back here into the United States. The first thing that came to my mind is how the heck are we going to afford to be able to do that? The reason why we outsourced our manufacturing to a place like China is because those people work for low wages. If you look in communist countries, say China or Russia, everybody around the government is basically poor everywhere. And then you have the wealthy elites. That's what you have. And if it wasn't that way, those countries wouldn't survive. So you look here in the United States, the reason why we've had a higher standard of living is because instead of forcing people in our country to work for low wages, we take advantage of a communist country whose people work for low wages to survive so that we can live at a higher level standard. That's why we get our iPhones and our furniture and our cars at a decent price. And I'm sure many of you know, as small business owners, this is the case. And right now, you can see where small business owners are starting to get crushed in the United States because they can't afford to pay for these tariffs. And I think they estimated it was like, I don't know, 200,000, something like that a year that it can cost small business owners. Small business owners, anybody under 500 employees. So the question is going to become what's going to happen to our economy if we're becoming more like Russia or China. And it's because those economies are extract wealth economies, where, like I said before, it's the population, the mass population that suffers for low wages. They can't live at a higher standard of living. They have to live at a lower standard of living. But the government and the elites, they get to live at a higher standard of living. They would be able to live at a higher standard of living if they didn't make people poorer. So that's what we got going on with this wealth gap. That's because we've been living in a wealth extraction economy that has worked, that I suspect is no longer, it isn't any longer working in this country. And I would highly recommend for you, if I've got the book here, this book, The Dollar Crisis by Richard Duncan, and it talks a lot about this and how it's no longer because our economy needs constantly to be able to pay for our debt. We need to keep growing our economy. The only way we can do that is to keep using debt to do that because you can't save fast enough if we're not producing enough. And that's because we live in an extraction, a wealth extraction economy. Now we're coming into a circulatory wealth spreading economy. That's a little different because that starts from the bottom up. Right now, the way it works for us and the way Trump is doing it, it's through having an economy, trickle down economy. That's what I wanted to say. So when we're looking at a trickle down economy, we're looking at where wealth starts at the top and trickle down. But the problem is it don't trickle down fast enough, even if it works. And a lot of it gets siphoned off by the wealthy. It's welfare for the rich, as far as I'm concerned. So you really have to think, as you as a small business owner, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in an economy where the future is, where it's not about extracting wealth from everybody else, it's about producing wealth for more and more people as you're doing business? Me, preferably, I want to be part of a circulatory one because I feel when you've got too much of a wealth gap and you've got too many poor people or too many people struggling to make ends meet, it's not healthy, and we can do better. We don't want to be like China. We don't want to be like Russia. That's the problem. So in order to do that, you have to be able to look at how you're doing business. Many of these small business owners are getting hit by the tariffs because they are extracting wealth from your customers and wealth from you because you're going to get less profit. And that means that your customers are going to get prices that are higher and higher they can't afford to be paying. So more people lose that way. And I'm not saying things are going to be perfect or anything like that. But I want to share this little story with you just to give you an example. So let me see if I can share my screen here because I found this interesting. Uh, okay, share my screen here. Where is my share button? Where's the share button when you're looking for it, huh? That's what I want to know. I want to be able to share my screen. I think I hit the wrong button. Hold on. As you can see, I'm a little technically challenged here, but that's okay. We'll do the best we can. Come on. Doesn't help when your computer's running a little slow, does it? But we'll find a way. What are you gonna do? It's running really slow because it's blocking my screen. To a page, and all these things keep popping up. All right. So there's an article that I pulled up here from Celebrity Net Worth, and this is the story of Nas. For those of you who do not know who Nas is, he is a rap icon, artist back late 80s, early 90s who came out. And Nas wins key approval for 5.5 billion Queens casino project. But how much will he personally own? Nas was already a music icon and a venture capital mogul, and this week he took the first many steps on the path to becoming a casino tycoon. Ooh. And yesterday, Resorts World New York City, owned by Malaysian gaming giant Jetting Group, won unanimous approval from the Queens Community Advisory Committee to expand its existing Aqueduct Racino. I don't even know what the hell a Racino is. If anybody wants to tell me what a Racino is, please put it in the chat. And into a full-scale Las Vegas style casino resort. Maybe it's like a mini casino, before they actually do the real thing, almost like a test pilot. Because I know they have that down here in my city where they had a casino where they were trying to get off the ground and it got screwed up in the courts or whatever. And they settled on having like this kind of mini casino stuff. They got trailers and stuff like that. And I think their whole goal is to eventually open to a big casino, full scale casino. So I'm guessing this may have something to do with that. So the 5.5 billion project will feature one of the largest casino floors in the world, a 7,000 feet entertainment venue, more than 1,600 hotel rooms, restaurants by celebrity chefs, 3,000 units of workforce housing, and acres of new parkland. Awesome. Then it says the expansion still requires a full gaming license from New York State, but approval by the local board was a major hurdle. If the license is granted later this year, Resorts World expects to begin operations by mid 2026 with the full build out complete by the end of the decade. The project is projected to create thousands of unit jobs and generate roughly 1 billion a year in new tax revenue for the city. You know, this all sounds good and everything. It really does. But here's the deal. You have to see the whole picture. Most people will see a one side of the picture, and you read this, and that's basically what they're talking about. There's always this red flag. And as we always say here, there's more than one side to a coin. There's actually three. And you got to be able to see the good and bad. The only way you're going to see that is standing on the edge of the coin, right? So when you stand on the edge of the coin, it just goes back to what I was saying about Argentina. Great. The Argentinian government is going to be able to stabilize their economy by dollarizing with the US dollar, by adding it to their economy. But the trade-off for the stabilization is you're going to be forcing or suppressing the wages of the masses, of your community, of your country. And I see that as a problem in this day and age. I think it's outdated. I mean, there was a time when that existed, the industrial age. Like I said, that's what it was all about. You know, we win and you lose. And we see these baby boomers, this is what's going on. Their generation, they're doing this. So I was saying about Trump with the tariffs. That is an old school way of doing things. And when we look at something, say, like Bitcoin, the whole design of Bitcoin, and this is the funny thing about Bitcoin. Most of these baby boomers, these older people, and even the young ones, I'll say, they think the value in Bitcoin is making more and more money with it. Literally, like trading it, like buying it at a lower price, arbitrage. Buying it at a low price, like we do, when you're a merchant, you buy something at wholesale and you sell it retail. They think that that's what Bitcoin is about. And that's why I see all these people going into it. We see now Bitcoin is really washing out a lot of these people who are basically betting on the gambling. And here we have, Nas starting this gambling casino that he's trying to get off the ground. That's extracting of wealth out of a community and out of people. That's not the design of something like Bitcoin. The design of Bitcoin is so you need less money, less and less Bitcoin, not more and more of it. And we compare that to the dollar. What do you need? In order to survive, every year you need more and more and more money. Where does it end? Because that's the economy living. That's why things are breaking. And people are becoming poorer for it. Because someone has to lose in that case in order for someone else to win. It's like landlords. You buy a 100-unit apartment building, and I'm not saying don't invest in real estate. I've invested in real estate and everything. I don't own it now because I divested myself of it because I'm going in a new direction. But the reality is, as a landlord, if we're going to be 100 about this, in order for you to win as a landlord, your tenants have to lose. Because let's just say, as we see going on now, your taxes, insurance is going up. Well, landlords are not going to take that hit, right? Just like the tariffs. These countries get hit these tariffs, they're not going to take that hit. Right now, we still have these corporations eating it, but the small business owners can't eat it. And if you're a small business owner, you know that. You can't afford to pay these tariffs. You'll be out of business, and that's what's happening. Main Street is getting wiped out. So when we look at all this, how are you going to overcome that? Because as a real estate investor, if you're buying like a lot of small business owners do in order to prepare for retirement, because they're looking for cash flow, they take some of the money they made in their business, what do they do with it? They invest in real estate, right? Rental properties. So that's an industrial age idea. That's what you did. But In order to keep the cost of living, you got to keep raising the rents, right? That means that even if wages are not going up for your tenants, you're still going to charge them more. That means they lose. And I'm not sitting here trying to tell you it's right or wrong. What I'm trying to say to you is that is an extraction-based business model. In order for you to win, someone has to lose. And I don't believe that's going to do serve us well in this new digital economy. I think that things like Bitcoin are going to serve us better because you need less and less money with Bitcoin. Let's just say you're a merchant and you decide that you're taking Bitcoin. We know the price goes up and down right now. It's too volatile to be able to really use it as a medium exchange right now. But that doesn't mean a small business owner still can't use it as a sovereign savings account. Because the whole idea of Bitcoin, ideally, it's a store of value right now. And eventually it'll become a medium exchange. That's going to take time. But it's a store of value. It's like when people invest in paintings, they invest in diamond watches and different things. Bitcoin is no different. So they're investing in that to protect their wealth, just like buying other commodities such as oil, silver, or gold. So those things is because they're real, okay? They're real resources, real commodities. They actually have value to them. So when we look at this and you're thinking about, okay, how am I going to deal with these tariffs? Well, the answer to me is start entering into a circulatory wealth business model. And what I mean by that is practice your business in a way that it's going to spread wealth in the community. Because when we look at Nas, he's going to build this casino. And great, it says that, he's going to what? And they always say this stuff, and yeah, I'm sure it's true. I mean, who knows how it's going to be? It's going to have celebrity chefs. Okay, that's really whatever. That's to attract customers, suckers. I mean customers to the casino. Um, let's say about jobs. 3,000 units of workforce housing. So I guess they're going to be providing housing for low-wage workers to work out of. That's basically what that reads to me, 3,000 units. And the question is, who's that really going to build wealth for? Nas and his group? In the government? Or is it going to be Nas, his group, the government, and the population? That's what you got to ask yourself. Yes, we need tax revenue and stuff, and that's why a lot of these places get built because they see the tax revenue that you can make from gambling. But gambling, there is no doubt people have lost their life savings because gambling is a disease, just like alcoholism. And I look at myself as a native Black American, and I see what's happening to my Black community. It's not that we haven't had money. The problem is where we're spending money. We don't know how to spend our money because it's just kind of the curse of poverty that we've had to deal with after slavery. It's going on, civil rights movement, all this stuff that's taking place, Jim Crow laws. So I say to myself, Nas, as a member of the Black community, for me, he should know better. It may sound like I'm hating on him, but he should have more insight. I wish he would have more insight to see that it's really not going to benefit the community. And maybe he doesn't care about benefiting the community. And maybe that's the case. I gotta get new office chairs. My chair keeps sinking on me. But maybe, he don't care about that. But for someone like me, I do. And I hate the fact we don't really need another casino. And if you do a casino, he should be asking himself, I would think, how can I spread this wealth within the community. Even if it just starts out with the black community. I don't know. Because that's kind of what you're seeing with Native Americans also have done. I guess, I can't remember how it goes, but depending what tribe you belong to, you get a portion of the revenue. I don't know. I'm not sure if Nas plans on doing anything like that. It doesn't sound like it because you've got a Malaysian group. I guess Malaysians, yeah, they do a lot of gambling, I guess. Um, so I don't know how much of this he owns. Let's just see if there's anything here that shows that how much of a stake he's going to have in the casino. Stepping, because he's from Queens. So I'm sure this is an exciting time for him. Um, let's see. That opened the door. Malaysian hospitality. And a lot of times I hate to say it, especially a lot of these rappers, they become the face of these casinos because they're trying to attract those particular people. Like you'll see a lot of commercials on TV. A lot of people know that Black people have um, eat a lot of chicken. That's always been part of our diets, being fried or whatever, and fried and unhealthy as hell. I don't eat fried food and stuff, but a lot of them do. So that's why you see a lot of commercials. It'll be Black people eating chicken. That's the way it is, a stereotype. So when we look at here, the same thing can be true for Nas. I know he started a liquor company one time. I forgot the name of his liquor company was, or he was the face of, I don't know if it's Kettle or what it was, he was the face of doing commercials for them. That wasn't a coincidence. That was so he would attract Blacks with alcohol. And we've been destroyed by alcoholism. So this is what I'm saying. That's a form of extraction from your community of wealth and also health. So that's what happens in a lot of these big groups when they're trying to look for new customers. And being in Queens, I'm sure there's a lot of Black people who live in Queens, and him being the face of it, it's going to attract a large group of Blacks to want to go gamble there. And we're the last ones that can afford to gamble, if you know what I mean. We've gambled enough. So these are the things that I get concerned with. So it's not that I'm hating on Nas. I'm happy for him as a businessman. We're doing deals and the whole bit and everything. I'd rather see him doing that than being in prison and all this stuff and everything. But at the same time, when you get in that position of power and privilege, I would like to see people to add to their community, not just to their own pockets. And I know a lot of people say, well, he's providing jobs and all that stuff. Listen, jobs are becoming an old idea, as we know as business owners. We're moving to an economy where you're only going to survive if you're doing cooperative cash flow. And a matter of fact, if anybody is interested as a business owner to learn about our three-step system that's designed to circulate wealth within a community, you can go to cooperativecashflow.com and check out the video there and see what you think of it and become part of our community that's about spreading wealth with back Main Street to support Main Street because we want to back it up. So let's see if Nas shows what ownership he's going to, because I know Jay-Z, he tried to, but his failed. It didn't go through for whatever reason. I haven't looked up the story why it hasn't. And I don't see anything in here that shows so far what ownership stake he's going to have. Because he just may be a face and get a little bit out of it. Let's just see. It says, a company of that size and sophistication is not handing out a 10% stake worth $550 million to any celebrity, no matter how iconic, just for promotion. Okay. By our estimate, Nas' net worth is 100 to 200 million. We put it that range because much of his net worth is based on private valuations of the companies and his ventures and capital. And net worth, 100 million, $200 million, we know as cash flow producers, it doesn't matter what your net worth. Your net worth can be anything. It can be your cars, it can be your clothes and all stuff. It don't mean nothing. Okay. We want no hard cash in the bank. But anyhow, it's just saying he's worth 100, 200 million. Private early investments are extremely hard to value. His biggest hit to date is Coinbase. Okay, he's gonna invest in Coinbase. So, um, but once again, even Coinbase, it's an extraction business strategy because it's not just promoting Bitcoin, it's promoting all these other cryptocurrencies that we know being a part of this community that it's a Ponzi scheme because it's owned, these particular cryptos are owned by somebody. They control them, which creates the risk. It doesn't make them as valuable as Bitcoin because no one owns Bitcoin or controls it. Making some big assumptions, okay, primarily that he hasn't sold any shares. Queensbridge Ventures might own 100 million worth of Coinbase stock today. Okay, comes to Coinbase, but like I said, um, as a reminder, the project carries 5.5 billion price tag, funded primarily by Genting Group. So, is Nas chipping in 100 million for his share? Almost certainly not. I also doubt Nas would agree to be involved in this simply as paid spokesperson. Okay, so we can eliminate that. Given his history as a venture investor through Queensbridge Venture Partners, it's reasonable to assume he negotiated some slice of the equity, but how big of a slice, and what would that mean in terms of ongoing income for the project? As a comparable, let's look at Jay-Z's Brooklyn Nets investment as a comp. Okay, I don't know why you do that. One's a casino, one's a sports team, but we'll play along. In January 2024, real estate developer Bruce Ratner bought New Jersey Nets for 300 million. He wanted to eventually bring the team over to Brooklyn to be the anchor tenant in his planned Barclays Center. Jay-Z chipped in 1 million to buy a slice of the team. 1 million is not much for Jay-Z these days. In 2009, the luckiest Russian billionaire of all time, Mikhail Prokhorov, bought 80% of Ratner's team stake and 45% of Barclays Center. As you may remember, Jay-Z was almost universally described as being the owner of the Nets during that period. So, what percentage did he actually own? 0.67%, which is always less than 1%. As in 1/15th of 1%. Jay also separately owned 1/5 of 1% of Barclays Center when Jay sold his stakes to become a sports agent in 2013. He got paid $350,000 and $2 million respectively. Okay. What percent of casino could mean? Let's say Nas has a 1% stake in the casino, and let's say he was simply gifted with a stake without having to put any money down. Even a 1% stake in casino could be very meaningful in the long run. As a reminder, apparently, the Aqueduct Casino currently generates $1 billion per year in revenue, and they plan to build one of the largest casino floors in 7,000 venture and more than 1,600 hotel rooms. If all goes perfectly well, let's say the future generates 2.5 billion revenue per year. That's revenue, obviously, not net profits. If the casino generates 2.5 billion in annual revenue with a 10% net profit margin, that's 250 million in profit. A 1% stake would equal 2.5 million per year. Okay, if profits are higher, say 375, 50%, 1%, 3.7 million. In an essentially strong year of 500 million in profit, 20% margin, 1%, would yield 5 million per year. If he owns 5%, multiply the numbers above five. But I am extremely skeptical that Nas owns 5% of the project. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully future disclose will get. So obviously, he's not in it for nothing, but he's not the majority owner. And that's why I said before, even though he's not being a paid spokesperson per se, but he still can be a paid um, spokesperson owner, the face of it. Because, like I said, I'm sure his name is valued at something, especially when it comes to his community and being from there. Will he would attract a lot of people from the community, which I do not find that to be a positive thing, especially for Black communities, because we're always struggling with how we're managing our money. We have to learn how to do that better. Everybody has to learn how to do that better. And that's why I'm a promoter of cash flow education, a rich dad cash flow education. So it's just something to think about. You have to decide whether or not, you know, you want to be part of a community or a business model that I know before it was about, like when I sold on Amazon, when I was an Amazon merchant, it was about arbitrage. I would find products for pennies on the dollar and I would sell them for major profits online. Excuse me, some of the products, they held their value. It was great. If someone needed it, I get all that, and I've done all that stuff. But for me, I want to be because I see what's going on with the devaluation of our dollar. So I want to see as many people on Main Street or small business owners on Main Street moving to a circulatory or circulatory wealth business model where people don't have to lose in order for us to win. So this is why I'm promoting back Main Street and stuff, because I really feel that we need to move there. Because when we look how the dollar, I believe, is dying since 1971, when they took the US dollar off the gold standard, we're in trouble. We're in definite trouble. And this is my answer to that. And certainly if you guys have any idea of what you think about this, share it in the comments. What you think. I'm not saying that I'm right with what I'm saying, but I just think do better. And I stopped sharing my screen, but now I lost my controls here. You gotta love technology. I'll tell you. Oh, the Zoom kills me sometimes because I don't know if it's my computer. Let me see if I can shut down this page here because that may be part of the problem. Who the heck knows? But I can't even find my controls right now. So I'm not even sure if I'm still even live with you guys. And I have no choice but to wait and see. Let's see. See myself here, but is it gonna come up? All right, came back up here. But yeah, it's just food for thought. I'm not saying that Nas is right or wrong for what he's doing. I'm just really trying to get people to understand we live in a time today with all the technology that we have, and I believe Bitcoin's leading the way in that. that we now have the opportunity to spread more wealth. There's always going to be poor people. Always going to be because some people just not want to go. They're not going to want to participate. They're not going to want the changes. This is why life goes on, and we don't live forever. And this is why when you look at the baby boom generation, they're fading to the back. They're not running the economy anymore. They're fading away, and that's why I believe the Trump administration policies are not going to work any longer. They're just not because they're not fitting into this new digital economy that we're moving into. And this has nothing to do with me being against Trump or anything like that. I'm apolitical, like I said. He's not my kind of entrepreneur, whatever. But my thoughts on what he's doing has nothing to do with him personally. It's just got to do with I just think a lot of decisions he's making, like he's living back in like 1970s, hanging out at the Playboy Mansion. That's what it just seems like to me. All right, cash flow creators. So this is the